Greetings. In this episode, I will talk about Francisco Vasquez de Coronado and his search for the seven cities of gold. Before getting started, I would encourage you to subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel for more great content. I also entreat you to visit my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com. There you will find sample chapters, podcasts, a slew of content, and links to where you can buy my books. While visiting the website, you can subscribe to it and receive email notifications when I publish a new book or other content like this video and podcast. You can also subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel to ensure you don't miss any of my content there. This episode is based on my book, The Early Explorers, Book 1. The book includes many biographies of many of the earliest men that explored North America. You can find my books locally at the Walnut Street Variety Shop in Batesville, Indiana. Francisco Vasquez de Coronado lived from 1510 until September the 22nd, 1554. The second son of Juan Vasquez de Coronado y Sosa de Ula, excuse my Spanish, and Isabel Le Lujan, Francisco was a native of Salamanca, Spain. Of noble parentage, during his early manhood, he held various governmental administrative posts. As the second son, he stood little chance of inheriting the family estates. Thus, in 1535, he set out to seek his fortune in New Spain, accompanied by the first viceroy of New Spain, Antonio de Mendoza. He and Mendoza had become friends when they met at the Spanish court. After his arrival, he married Beatriz de Estrada, from whom he inherited a large fortune. In 1538, Mendoza appointed Coronado as governor of New Galicia, a province in the northwestern Mexico. Many of the Spanish conquistadors spent fortunes in money and lives searching for the seven cities of gold. These explorers included Cabeza de Vaca and Hernando Coronado. The lost city of Quivira was one of these cities. Other cities in the legend included El Dorado and Cibola. The legend of the seven cities of gold arose in 1535 when four Spanish shipwreck survivors washed up on the shores of Texas. They walked overland, arriving at last in Mexico City. There they related tales that they had heard of vast wealth located in what is now the Sonoran Desert. Their tale led to many of the conquistadors' expeditions into the great deserts of the Southwest and the Great Plains. These tales appeared confirmed when Mendoza sent Friar Marcos de Niza Estevanico on an expedition into the area in 1539. Upon their return, they spoke of having seen but not visited one of the cities. Mendoza began organizing a larger expedition to find these cities. To gather intelligence on the area, he sent Melchior Diaz, the commander of the outpost of San Miguel de Colican, to investigate. Diaz departed on November the 17th, 1539. He was to report back before Coronado's expedition departed in February. To finance the expedition, Mendoza and Coronado spent their own funds. Coronado used his wife's fortune as collateral for a loan and secured another loan to provide his share of the funding. The expedition would consist of two separate parties. Hernando de Alarcon would lead a sea expedition that would have most of the supplies on the ships. Alaradun was to sail up the Gulf of California, locate the mouth of the Colorado River, and meet the land expedition at a specified point to resupply them. Coronado would lead the expedition that would penetrate the interior to find the seven cities of gold. Melchor Diaz had not returned when Coronado was ready to depart. With all soldiers, horses, and supplies assembled, Coronado set out anyway. The expedition included over 1,400 men and 1,500 animals to serve as food. The men consisted of about 400 Spanish soldiers. The remainder were native allies and some slaves. The expedition would skirt the Gulf of California coast until it reached the Spanish outpost of San Miguel de Culiacan around March 23, 1540. Coronado would rest his men there for about a month. Coronado's fleet departed San Miguel de Culiacan on the west to explore the Colorado River on April 22, 1540. Hernando de Alarcon would depart by ship in May. The plan was for Alarcon to find the mouth of the Colorado River, sail up it, and rendezvous with Coronado's overland expedition. Coronado traveled northwest along the Gulf of California until he reached the Sinaloa River. The expedition followed that river until they found a pass that allowed them to go north to the Yaqui River. From there, he and his men followed the rivers and traversed passes until they crossed present-day Mexico-United States border. They traveled through New Mexico and Arizona. Upon reaching the Zuni River, they encountered the Zuni people, low on supplies. By this time, Coronado demanded that he be allowed to enter their city, Hawaka. When the Zuni refused, Coronado attacked them and subdued the village. This was the celebrated Spanish, quote, conquest of Cibola, unquote. While resting in the city, Coronado sent out Melchor Diaz to meet with Hernando de Alexandre's ship and retrieve their supplies. Coronado's expedition spent the winter in Cibola. A slave belonging to Coronado told tales of a rich land to the northwest. Quivira, the capital the slave related, was a rich city that promised his owner great wealth. Alexandre had sailed up the Sea of Cortez, usually called the Gulf of California, until he found the source of the Colorado River. He sailed up the river as far as he could, though he did not reach Coronado. Foiled, he buried his ship's supplies and planted a note in a bottle. Because worms were eating holes in his ship's hulls, he returned to San Miguel de Quilican. Some local Indians had seen Alacon's men bury the supplies and traveled to inform Coronado. Coronado retrieved the supplies and read El Serrano's note, which informed him of the reason he had departed. With fresh supplies, Coronado decided to embark on another expedition, following the tales of his slave. In the spring of 1541, he embarked on the search. During this expedition, groups from his greetings. In this episode, I will talk about Francisco Vasquez De Coronado River and his search for the seven cities of gold. To see the Grand Canyon and the Colorado far below. To the Mossy Feet expedition penetrated the vast prairies of North America. I also encourage you to visit my website, www.mossifeetbooks.com. They reached northeast as far as there you will find sample chapters, he did reach the city of Quivira, but found no riches. Upon questioning, while visiting the website, admitted the entire story was a fabrication. Coronado rewarded him with execution. Or other Coronado returned to San Miguel de Quilican, where he would live until his death. Subscribe on September the 22nd YouTube channel to ensure you don't miss any of my content. This expedition was largely considered a failure. However, his discoveries opened the door to Spanish conquest of the Southwest and biographies of many of the earliest men. The next episode will tell the story of Pedro Menendez de Avias and the founding of St. Augustine, Florida. The articles in the book contain much more detail about the topics discussed. Additionally, there will be other topics not included in the podcast. I encourage you to subscribe to both my website, mossyfeetbooks.com, and this YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you.